Hey everybody, this is Grace. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about empaths and highly sensitive people. And I think I'm going to start doing more on this topic on this channel. I have more than one YouTube channel. And go into more detail. I've done these over the years. I think I started my original channel August will be 6 years. And I've done since the beginning, I'd say maybe 6 months into it, I started doing videos about being highly sensitive, being, feeling empathy for people, and I just continued every blue moon. And some people like those types of videos. Now, I have lots of thoughts about empathy, and I don't know if I consider myself an empath. Well, with the way people describe it, yes. But some see it's such a split. Some see it as something that is some kind of magical and that they were born with it. Well, I personally, to each their own, but I personally don't know what I was born with. So, yeah, I mean, I can't remember back that far, but some people, they set it up to where, yeah, no matter what, they're right. And to each their own, like I said. I just don't see it as anything, kind of magical to it. I just feel empathy, and I know that some other people don't, plain and simple. And there are a variety of types. It's not black or white. It's not polarized. There are shades of gray in the middle, and that's how I see that. And I also see how I became this way, and as far back as I can remember, why I would be this way. Okay, and I have I understand why I am. My mother suffered from postpartum depression after me. My dad worked full time, and I had to learn, this is just part of it, I had to learn how to feel what other people were feeling and use my analytical skills very early in life to see what would elicit a, response from the other humans, to take care of me. And that's just very brief. Now let me get into more. And I'm trying to get used to using this cell phone in the house to make videos with me on camera, so bear with me. I'll probably look over there every once in a while to turn it off and put it on hold. So, okay. Now, as an empath, I'm going to ask questions, and when I do these videos, and see how others respond. Not everybody's going to be the same. I cannot imagine anybody thinking that all empaths are the same. They see things the same way, but I've seen people say that, especially one woman, she says she has the one and only definition of what it is to be an empath. That doesn't seem like much of an empath, in my opinion. Anyway, I'm looking at my notes here. But one of the questions would be something like this. Do many of you find yourself being more vocal online than offline? Yeah. Online and then versus in person. Well, these days with the pandemic and all, maybe you are more online, but you find yourself being more vocal. Instead of, maybe listening, being the person to listen, you're the person to vocalize your opinions. And, yeah. Now I'm going to give a little history of myself. I have been this way. I have been this way since I had my first computer in 1982. And anything like social media would have began somewhere around 1990. And I noticed I immediately started vocalizing my opinions, my views on things, and not just the one to sit back and listen. So I'll tell a story about that. Okay, now way back then, 1990, it was very different than what we see today. Yeah, and I tended to join, I think it was Prodigy was one of them, but the one I was on first was called Videotel. And then a lot of the stuff was on IRC, and then Prodigy, and then I was one of those that joined my computer, connected my computers to somebody else's computer through Telnet, and this was before the World Wide Web as we know it. And yeah, I was one of those first ones. Yeah, like I said, I had my first computer in 1982, and I think it had a 300 baud modem. Some people these days don't know what that would mean, but very slow. Anyway, I'm looking at my notes. But for me, I think it was easier, much better, because I've been around people, some empaths will understand this, people who are narcissistic, I call them narcissistic histrionic blend. They had to be the center of attention. That's in person. They had to be the center. They didn't want to hear anybody else. They didn't, nobody's, they would act bored or they were busy. If you say anything about yourself, it had to be about them. And I spent a lot of my childhood, all my whole life around people like this. So being online, it's much more difficult for people to do that to you, to totally discount anything you say and then just move on to somebody else, or not somebody else, something more about them, switch the topic around to them, because you can block, delete them, or people who want to hear you will come to you. A lot of people want to go to that type because they're very charismatic and they do know how to draw in a crowd. Yeah, and they feed them what they want to hear. Too much of that. Especially people who are looking for that confirmation bias. Okay, look at my notes. Get used to it. But also, I think it was easier because there was too much activity during the day to really be able, to do any of this. So it was more like, for me, when I was younger, when I first started off, it was more of a thing I did at nighttime before I went to bed. Okay. And during the daytime, I don't know about anybody else who considered themselves a highly sensitive person or empath. During the day, it's just too much noise, too much going on, to where you can't concentrate so much on what you're thinking, or maybe you can, but it's one of those you have to get away from people in order to do, because they could be, like I just said, narcissistic histrionic, have to be the center of attention, or they're just too loud, just too much. And you're too overwhelmed by the presence of another or others. I'm not saying this is, like I said, none of this is 100% across the board. Everybody should feel it, none of that. So, no. Okay, to go back to then, back to, say, 1990, when really, social media just seemed more like developing, just really people getting into it more, somewhere around there. I started at some point, then I was on a lot of their listservs, these groups, and people basically told their own experiences or their opinions on their experiences or somebody else's experience. If they asked, there were bashers, haters, these days they call them trolls, flamers, they called them back then. Somebody would flame everything that you said, bash everything that you said. They were just that type back then. And there wasn't so much of a block delete back then. You couldn't delete or delete. Delete, yeah, that would be it. A combination. But you just couldn't do that back then as much. It was more recent years. But, yeah, I was on a lot of things like that. Then I started finding things that were online journals. First it was journals that they called them, and then online diaries, and then blogs. Okay, it's kind of evolved in what they call them. I think some places still call them online diaries and or journals. People did them separate. They had their own websites, or they did them on services that allowed, lots of people. I did it also through email, and it wasn't people I know. It was just people who would join. You don't have to know the people and all that. And I did a lot of that. And for me, it was really good because I also did this. This I did early in the morning before anybody woke up. Okay, and that was good for me, and I'll go into more detail on that. Now, for me, I remember saying way back then, like I said, close to, I'd say it was more around the end of the 1990s that I saw more of these. Maybe it was earlier on. I don't remember. It was a long time ago. But I remember saying at some point, I started doing them myself, making online journals, online diaries, blogs, way back then. And I remember thinking to myself that early in the morning like that, some call it subconscious, some would say unconscious mind, and my conscious mind were the closest together when I first woke up, and I would get, that's when I would get up and start making these entries, okay, into whatever it was at the time. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, it just seemed like it was closer together, that I could, and interesting enough, to me, is I would wake up with some kind of thought on my mind on what I wanted to write about. And back then, I don't think anybody was doing videos. I could be wrong. But no, I don't think so. I'm looking at my notes here again. And so I used to write a lot. And I was, especially during my 30s, I was very popular. And that's when I had been separated and divorced and was dating. Okay. And people loved to hear anything about my dating woes. And back then, and once I stopped, people weren't interested. You know, it was like I had typecast myself, and I did that on videos too when I first started off. So, it wasn't about dating; it was about shopping. Yeah, I typecast myself, but that's not a good thing to do. You know, we don't all have just one thing about us. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, like if you join this channel, I'm going to do a variety and not just one topic, but. Anyway, I'm looking at my notes again. So I used to write a lot, and like I've written too many interference during the daytime, but it would just, when I would write, it would just flow out of me, okay? Like, I don't know, on autopilot or something. It was just flow, whatever it was, early in the morning. Now, if I tried later on, it just didn't. It did not work that well. And that was really good for me because I got a lot of things, you know, it was a diary, what's going on and everything, but it also helped me to work things out in my mind, you know, without all the other interferences of other people and all the noise, you know, as the days go, you know, people start going to work and all the noise, people driving by and all that. And I don't live in a place that's, you know, didn't then either, where it was extremely busy, but I think some of us know that if you're highly sensitive, yeah, you hear all that noise. Me, I hear everything from distance. Not everything, but, you know, within the distance, people are shocked by how much I can hear, how far. But up close, not so much. Yeah, it's not the same. But anyway, it would just, you know, it would just flow out of me. However I was feeling was just so, you know, and like I said, later on in the day, nope. And I could also do it a little bit after, like if I took a nap during the day, and get up, and it would kind of flow too. And I'm curious if other people experience the same kind of thing, who are empaths, highly sensitive people that they get their best work done when it's quiet and when they're alone. Okay, and I think a lot of people, empaths, it would make kind of sense, would feel that, you know, they don't have to feel so much of what other people are doing and thinking, you know, and that's how I say that. Okay, so anyway, yeah, I have done some videos on this channel. This channel is kind of new, and I really didn't have a purpose, the clear purpose for it. Like I said, there'd be a little bit of a variety, but I think I'm going to try to stick more to this topic, and having different kinds of viewpoints on things, a variety, but more on empaths and highly sensitive people, or what is it called, sensory processing sensitivity, yeah. But I have a lot of thoughts, and I think this is enough for this one. And I got to get used to doing this with a camera, you know, giving that, like I said, the pandemic and all, and where a lot of people are sheltered in place. Today's May 7th, 2020, by the way, and a lot of people are still at home. You know, a lot of people work from home. That's how it is here, and you know, still sheltered in place and all. Some call it lockdown, whatever you call it where you live. And so I want to get used to this again. I used to do them all, but I was doing them on webcam, and webcams don't work with my Windows 10 anymore. So, and plus I have Wi-Fi issues right now. But anyway, I think that's enough. I'm going to wrap this up, and I'll probably do more videos on this channel. Like I said, I'll talk to you on another video though. But if you have an opinion, you know, on it, just leave it below. Let's try to agree to disagree. I think many people who are empaths can understand that. Anyway, talk to you all in another video.